The war in Gaza will renew on Saturday if Hamas follows through with its threat to pause the return of Israeli hostages in violation of the ceasefire agreement. That's the clear threat from Prime Minister Netanyahu, backed up fully by the Trump administration. More on this report from ILTV's Steve Leibowitz.
The ceasefire will be over and the war in Gaza will renew if Hamas does not return Israeli hostages by midday Saturday, as per agreement. That was the clear message from Prime Minister Netanyahu, backed up by the even larger demand from U.S. President Trump for the return of all Israeli hostages by noon Saturday, or all hell would break loose. Netanyahu said that if the ceasefire is broken, the IDF will return to intense fighting until Hamas is finally defeated.
ההחלטה שהעברתי בקבינט פה אחד היא זאת: אם חמאס לא יחזיר את חטופינו עד שבת בצהריים, הפסקת האש תיפסק וצה"ל יחזור ללחימה עצימה עד להכרעה סופית של החמאס.
Shortly after Netanyahu's remarks, the military said additional troops, including reservists, were deployed to the Southern Command.
לאור הודעת החמאס על ההחלטה שלו להפר את ההסכם ולא לשחרר את החטופים שלנו, הנחיתי אמש את צה"ל לצבור כוחות בתוך רצועת עזה ומסביב לרצועת עזה. הפעולה הזאת מתבצעת בשעות אלה, היא תושלם בזמן הקרוב ביותר.
The announcement came after detailed discussions with the Political Security Cabinet, which endorsed what it called President Trump's revolutionary vision for the future of Gaza.
סיימתי כעת דיון מעמיק של 4 שעות בקבינט המדיני-ביטחוני. כולנו הבנו תרעומת מהמצב המזעזע של 3 חטופינו ששוחררו בשבת האחרונה. כולנו גם בירכנו על הדרישה של הנשיא טראמפ לשחרור חטופינו עד שבת בצהריים, וכולנו גם בירכנו על החזון המהפכני של הנשיא לעתיד עזה.
An Israeli official clarified that Israel does not necessarily expect all 9 hostages who are set for release in the first phase to be freed on Saturday, but rather for 3 to be released on Saturday as per ceasefire agreement, with the rest being freed over the coming days.
Well, the Arab world has reacted to Trump's proposal regarding the Palestinians with a strong rejection thus far, and escalating tensions between the U.S. and Israel's neighbors, Jordan and Egypt. Both nations, which Trump is asking to absorb some Palestinians from Gaza. Yesterday, Jordanian King Abdullah was welcomed to the White House. Let's take a look at what took place.
President Trump on Tuesday welcomed Jordanian King Abdullah to the White House despite Jordan's recent rejection of Trump's proposal to move Palestinians from Gaza. In the meeting, Trump reiterated the U.S. plan to take over Gaza and relocate Palestinians to a safer destination, to which King Abdullah strongly objected.
We're going to have Gaza. We don't have to buy. There's nothing to buy. We will have Gaza.
What does that mean?
No reason to buy. There is nothing to buy. It's Gaza. It's a war-torn area. We're going to take it. We're going to hold it. We're going to cherish it.
The Jordanian king did, however, agree to immediately take in 2,000 sick or injured Palestinian children from Gaza.
One of the things that we can do right away is take 2,000 children that are either cancer children or in a very ill state to Jordan as quickly as possible.
Yet despite the differences, King Abdullah also expressed a strong vote of confidence in Trump's commitment to bringing peace to the region.
Mr. President, I truly believe that with all the challenges that we have in the Middle East, that I finally see somebody that can take us across the finish line to bring stability, peace, and prosperity to all of us in the region. And it is, I think, our collective responsibility in the Middle East to continue to work with you, to support you, to achieve those lofty goals. So I'm very delighted to be here. And as you said, sir, we've got some very interesting discussions ahead of us.
Very good.
Over the last week, Trump has increased pressure on Arab states to play a greater role in the solution in Gaza and reportedly threatened to withhold U.S. aid to Egypt and Jordan over the issue. In response to threats, Egyptian President al-Sisi canceled his upcoming trip to Washington, and the Egyptian government stated U.S.-Egypt relations were more strained than they have been in decades over Trump's desire to relocate Palestinians. Egypt, like the rest of the Arab world, expressed outrage despite refusing to take in any Palestinian refugees, even temporarily. President Trump, however, remains confident that Jordan and Egypt both will contribute to rehousing Palestinians and refuted claims that he was conditioning aid to the two Arab nations over the issue.
The southern region of Israel is preparing for the possibility of the war continuing if Hamas does not release hostages by President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu's deadline. ILTV's Shosh Bedrosian is in Kibbutz Magen near the border of Gaza with more details. Shosh?
Well, Emily, to put it into perspective for our viewers watching right now, I'm about 3.5 kilometers from the border of Gaza. For so many people that live in this area, they feel as if they are so close yet so far away from where some of these hostages are being held. Of course, with what Hamas recently said about delaying the upcoming hostage release, it could put these hostages in jeopardy, but also return fighting to the Gaza Strip. The IDF says it's raised its level of alert and canceled leave for combat soldiers and other essential units in the Southern Command after Hamas's announcement. They also say they're significantly bolstering forces to carry out defensive missions on the Gaza border. Although the ceasefire is still ongoing despite Hamas not wanting to release hostages on Saturday, the IDF says the Air Force struck a drone and 2 terrorists after it crossed into Israeli territory. The IDF says they've recently identified several attempts to smuggle weapons into Gaza using drones and have foiled several plans already. The main concern is what the future of this war might look like if the ceasefire doesn't hold on Saturday. Prime Minister Netanyahu vows to return to intense fighting if Hamas doesn't release the hostages on Saturday by noon, echoing President Trump's strong remarks that, quote, all hostages need to be released at that deadline. It's unclear at this time if Hamas will eventually release the hostages on Saturday with all of this mounting pressure. And the deputy mayor of the Eshkol region in the south says forces on the border might be increasing, but they have one focus.
You know, we've been living with uncertainty for the last year and a half, and the war has been going on, and now there's a ceasefire. And the thing that I think is most important for the Eshkol Regional Council and the community is bringing the hostages back home. That's our main effort. That's the main thing. And the Regional Council is like a big family.
With the release of these 3 male hostages, we're learning that there are signs of life from 7 different hostages that are still in Hamas captivity. Only one of them that we've heard is alive, is said to be released in this first phase of the deal. Emily?
All right, thank you, Shosh, for that update. And now the family of hostage Yosef Chaim Ohana said today that they have received a clear indication that Yosef Chaim is alive. The family told Ynet that they had spoken to former hostages who returned this past Saturday, upon which they learned that their son is in poor health but alive, according to the information. They decided to speak to the media so that Ohana would be counted as a hostage and not listed as missing since taken captive 16 months ago. Ohana, age 24, was taken captive at the Nova Music Festival on October 7, 2023, and this would be the first sign of life received. With 5 rounds of hostage prisoner releases completed, as of Saturday, there are still 17 Israeli hostages supposed to be set free in the first phase. Ohana is not among them. 73 of the 251 hostages abducted by Hamas on October 7th remain in Gaza, including the bodies of at least 34 confirmed dead by the IDF. Well, following these escalating regional tensions and a host of unknowns when it comes to the hostage for ceasefire deal, I want to welcome to the show Itamar Marcus, the founder of Palestinian Media Watch, to discuss the next steps when it comes to the Palestinians. Itamar, welcome to the show. To start, I'd love to hear your response to this meeting between King Abdullah and President Trump. Do you think that Trump's plan for Gaza is something that really can be implemented?
Definitely. Trump's plan can be implemented, and it won't even need any coercion. If we look at polls that were taken by Khalil Shkaki, the most important pollster, Palestinian pollster, just before October 7th, literally in October 2023, he found that 44% of Palestinian youth between the age 18 and 28 already then wanted to leave Gaza. 31% of the entire population. So Palestinians, when everything was even better than today, they had their houses, they had their jobs, whoever could work, already a third and almost a half wanted to leave. Today, those numbers have to be double. Today, there's probably almost 100% who'd be willing to leave and go to another location. So the only problem is going to be the Palestinian Authority and Hamas, who ideologically and politically don't want to see these people leave. So what's going to happen if Trump wants this to succeed is he has to create a mechanism whereby these people can leave under the protection, under the guise of the United States, in the beginning secretly, and then once they start seeing pictures from their friends and families about what it's like life outside of this home, this construction site, they're all going to be going willingly.
Now, how are the Palestinians within Gaza responding to Trump's proposal to move Palestinians from Gaza? You've mentioned a few of them. We've also seen a little bit of footage of Palestinians on the ground saying that they're ready to leave, that they want to rebuild their lives. What have you heard?
Well, it's absolutely the case. And we have to assume that everyone that we do hear that's willing to leave represents a vast number. And the few people who are saying they don't want to leave, it could be just under fear or under pressure. Like, take an 18-year-old. What 18-year-old wants to be told that you're going to be living in a tent or living in a caravan for the next 10 years of your life? You're only going to start your life when you're 28 years old. The Gazans are going to want to leave. They're going to see a life. The question is, where are they going to go? Where are they going to be spread out? According to that original poll, the majority of them want to move to Turkey. Will Turkey, so-called American ally, will the United States be able to put enough pressure on Turkey so that these people will go to Turkey and have a welcome in Turkey, which is where most of them want to go?
Well, I want to shift a little bit to the West Bank under the Palestinian Authority. We recently saw this week a revision in the pay-for-slay policy by the Palestinian Authority, but that doesn't seem to be an actual change in terms of these payments to convicted Palestinian terrorists. Can you explain a little bit more about what happened with this supposed change in the pay-for-slay policy?
Yes, the Palestinian Authority, through its official channels, has made it clear that financially they are on the verge of total bankruptcy. They've said today that they've loaned billions of dollars from their own, billions of shekel from their own banks, and they can't loan anymore. They've reached the maximum. The only way they can survive is if Israel stops deducting the tax transfers, and if the United States and other countries start funding them again. This can't happen with the United States because of the Taylor Force Act until the PA cancels the law. So the PA had to cancel the law. On the other hand, the Palestinian population has been told for the last 15 years that nothing will ever hurt the salaries of the terrorists in prison. And so that's exactly what the problem is now. And so what we're seeing today he's canceled the old law. He said that the prisoners and the martyrs' families will continue to get funding from a new framework, and the language he used is intentionally ambiguous so that the families of the terrorists can imagine and believe that they're going to get the same amount, and the Americans, if they want to, can believe that it's going to be a normal welfare amount. But just have to understand the difference. The Palestinian terrorist who was a murderer, who's been in jail for 30 years, his family is receiving 12,000 shekel a month, whereas welfare payments, the highest welfare payments, are 600 shekel a month. So if he really does this drop and makes it like a welfare payment, there is going to be a lot of noise and a lot of anger in the Palestinian Authority, and we will know very soon what's really happening based on the way the families and the population responds.
All right, well, we'll have to watch that closely. I want to thank you for joining the show today. Itamar Marcus of Palestinian Media Watch.
Thank you.
Now, Israel received rare praise from the UN for the significant increase of aid flowing into the Gaza Strip since the start of the ceasefire. At the same time, UN officials have warned Hamas not to do anything to disrupt the agreement. We have more from ILTV's Steve Leibowitz.
The invented claim of Hamas that Israel is violating the ceasefire for hostage agreement by preventing the flow of aid was sharply contradicted by the UN and Egyptian officials on the ground.
We have been able to scale up humanitarian operations significantly with food, medical, and shelter supply and other aid during this ceasefire period. And we, of course, reiterate and echo the voices that it is imperative that this continues and can continue to be expanded and made sustainable.
The UN emphasized that the humanitarian aid includes such items as tents that had previously faced Israeli restrictions. The ceasefire agreement calls for the entry of fuel, caravans, and heavy bulldozers to move rubble. Israel is concerned about the potential dual use of certain supplies that could be used to build weapons. Kogat oversees the aid deliveries, and they reported that more than 100,000 tents had entered Gaza since the ceasefire went into effect. Egyptian officials said aid trucks were entering Gaza normally. Trucks are moving through the Rafah border crossing with the contents inspected by Israeli authorities. Contents include medicine and construction materials. The Egyptians confirmed that Israel was not placing obstacles.
بالنسبة لدخول المساعدات الإنسانية محدد طبقا للاتفاق 600 شاحنة في اليوم كل المساعدات الإنسانية. الموضوع ده من أول يوم حتى هذه اللحظة الحمد لله لم يتوقف وماشي وما فيش فيه أي مشاكل خالص.
The Egyptians are strongly urging Hamas to continue the hostage release as scheduled. Egypt has been fiercely resisting the entry of any meaningful number of Gazans seeking to leave the war zone since the start of the war. Rather, they increase security along their Gaza border to prevent the entry of potential Gazan civilian refugees. There has been a trickle of movement of Gazans into Egypt for medical attention. Cancer patients were moved to Egypt's El Arish hospital in the nearby Sinai. Earlier, Jordan announced that it will take in some 2,000 cancer patients and others needing medical care not available in Gaza due to damages to hospitals used by Hamas during the war.
And in an incredible show of solidarity, a group of Brazilian diplomats and members of Congress visited Israel in a delegation organized by Nechama and Hatzalah. This delegation's mission to bolster advocacy against anti-Semitism and strengthen the bond between Israel and the diaspora. ILTV's Devo Klein has more.
The delegation, led by Nechama and Hatzalah's chairman Moshika Moskowitz and Brazilian philanthropist Mrs. Alessandra Safra, engaged in a meaningful trip where profoundly relevant topics and themes were discussed as the group toured important sites. The diplomats visited sites related to October 7th, such as the Nova Music Festival Memorial Site, Harte Kibbutzim in the south, and even Yad Vashem. In addition to these locations, the delegation visited Israel's Knesset and even spoke with Knesset Speaker Amir Ohana. With growing concerns regarding global anti-Semitism, Nechama and Hatzalah took a break from their many charitable activities in Israel, whether caring for evacuees, soldiers on the battlefield, and more, to strengthen ties between Israel and the diaspora. The visit reinforced the delegation's commitment to promoting tolerance, mutual understanding, and a more secure future for Jewish communities across the globe.
Well, joining us today in studio is Alon Wald from Ammunition Hill, the historic battle site from the Six-Day War that's being transformed into a modern educational center. He's here to discuss an exciting initiative called Adopt a Liberator, supported by Jewish National Fund USA. This initiative aims to preserve and honor the legacy of those who fought for Jerusalem's reunification while creating an inspiring educational asset for future generations. Alon, thank you so much for joining us today. Glad to have you here in studio. I'd love to start by asking you about the historical significance of Ammunition Hill and why it's important to tell this story and preserve the legacy.
First and foremost, thanks for having me. Ammunition Hill is a battlefield, intact, exactly as it was 57 years ago, when the paratroopers of the IDF stormed inside, facing one of the toughest battles the paratroopers ever faced during the 77 years of our existence, against all odds. Outnumbered, with no artillery support, no intelligence, no aerial support, they came out victorious, and it's considered to be the pivotal battle that paved the way for the reunification of Jerusalem. And the bereaved families decided not to allow this place to be demolished, and it evolved to become an educational asset through the years.
Now, can you tell me a little bit about the three brave individuals who fought on Ammunition Hill and how this initiative is honoring their legacy?
They are part of an amazing generation. They fought, they won, they united Jerusalem, but as far as we are concerned, they became our adopting fathers. This amazing generation literally adopted us, the kids of Ammunition Hill. I lost my father there 57 years ago, without being asked. When all of the nation was marveling the reunification of Jerusalem, they reached out to our mothers, to our families, making a vow that lasted until today. I lost my father, but I have gained 10 amazing idol figures like these three men, and we owe them so much. All through the years, they gave us the core values they stood for, not only as soldiers, but as human beings. We are losing them on a yearly basis. So we decided to reach out the last 4 years with the blessing and the support of Jewish National Fund USA, urging students all over Israel to adopt a liberator that lives in their proximity. 3 of these guys are members of the kibbutz in the Gaza envelope. They were supposed to start this initiative soon after Sukkot, October 23, but they were abducted. And the kids were waiting for them for more than a year. Eventually, all 3 of them, liberators of Jerusalem, brave fighters, warriors, lost their lives in the tunnels where they were murdered by the Hamas. Normally, we adopt a liberator, but with their absence, we decided, with the blessing of the Eshkol region mayor, Michal Oziao, she's a good friend, we decided not to give up and to preserve the legacy with the widows, with the family members. The kids literally explode in this project, and it's unbelievable because they are able to study about their past, to be engaged and to be committed, and they will help us to preserve the legacy of these amazing grandfathers who lost their lives, but their legacy did not start, nor did it end in the 6-day war. And we owe them so much. And these kids, even as we speak, are recording their memories, the memories of the family, scanning everything the family gives them. Eventually, everything will be brought back to Ammunition Hill for eternal preservation. And this is a thing that we are doing every year now. And there's no time to lose because they are all these people, and we need to catch them when they are still available.
Absolutely. How can people or other organizations, how can they get involved in supporting this Adopt a Liberator initiative?
Reach out to Ammunition Hill. Every high school principal can choose one class. We have sufficient funds from Jewish National Fund because they realize that what we do means so much to these kids who study about their past. Reach out to Ammunition Hill. You can find us over the internet and say we have a class. They are committed. And we will give them the funds, we'll give them everything they need to preserve the legacy of a local talent, a local grandfather. Some of them are very modest. Some of them initially were reluctant to take part in this initiative, but once they heard the naive questions of these kids, they gave them everything they have in their guts. Some of them said to us, these kids scanned in my drawers things my kids will throw away after I'm gone. Thank you so much for letting me share my memories, my findings, my legacy.
Well, we are almost out of time, but I want to ask you, in the long term, together with JNF USA, what is your vision for preserving this historical site?
Not talking only about death and sacrifice and winning. We're talking about preserving the legacy, the widest common denominator of core values we all stand for: bravery, leadership, courage. These are values that we can share with kids and tell them you can be brave tomorrow morning without sacrificing your life, without going to any war. And kids believe in what we do, and thanks to Jewish National Fund USA, I can resonate these stories all over the world. I'm an Israeli guy. You should have heard my English 12 years ago when these guys said to me, go overseas, share these stories and this vision. This is something that collaborates amazingly with the efforts of Jewish National Fund.
All right, well, we are out of time, but thank you so much, Alon, for joining us and for the important work that you're doing to keep these stories and these memories alive of the heroes of our nation. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Rainy showers are expected around most of the country tonight, with temperatures reaching lows of around 8 degrees Celsius or 47 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow we'll see cloudy skies alongside steady temperatures, seeing highs of about 15 degrees Celsius or 59 degrees Fahrenheit. And that is a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channel, subscribe to our newsletter, and explore our website, iltv.tv. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Emily Schrader. Be well, and thank you so much for watching.